Hi VC, well I'm back. I've been disappearing down a few rabbit holes of late. As usual, I've been stuck in my habitual places of folk, jazz and hip hop, but more recently I have visited some places I've never been before really, and that is, for example, the whole post-punk genre. I won't say recently, but I suppose in the past 12 months I've become quite enamored with post-punk, and I found this fall collection of 24 of the John Peel sessions in one neat and tidy package of 7 discs, I think, 7 CDs. So I've been listening to quite a bit of post-punk over the past number of months, like ESG behind us here, which I'll do in a later video. But also I've disappeared down the bounteous Captain Beefheart rabbit hole, which is quite cavernous in terms of its complexity and its sound. And this is another box set that I found recently, which is on the Revenant label, and it covers his whole career in effect from 1965 through to 82. Superb finds, both of these, which I'll introduce at a later stage. So while I've been away, I've received some VCLT, and it's been quite remiss of me not to show it before now. So I was in England this year, and I met with my good friend Mark Williams, and I spoke to John Kiefer on the phone. Hi John, if you're watching as well. I believe you may be abroad somewhere in the Far East, somewhere exotic anyway, based on your pens that you've been showing recently on Facebook. But Mark gave me VCLT a while back, and I've got a new stereo system recently, so I hadn't been able to hear this until very recently. So Mark, it's only in the past month or so that I've had a chance to review this. This is a compilation, kind of a live compilation of, well, some live tracks featuring Gong, Global Village Trucking Company, who I never heard of before, Henry Cow and Camel. This is called Greasy Truckers, live at the dance hall. Really good, enjoyed that, Mark. And while I met you, you handed these off to me, and they're all about the production. Barry White and Gladys Knights and the Pips, and yeah, I hear what you're saying in relation to them. It's not something that I would have opened my ears to before, but definitely I see where you're coming from. And for any of you guys that are unfamiliar with Mark's radio show, it's a weekly radio show on Faversham Creek FM. I'll leave a link to it below. You guys should check it out for sure. And Mark is a highly engaging host and just top class bloke, despite his predilection for Chelsea. I also received VCLT a long time ago from Aaron Margosian, this metal theologian. And Aaron, I've no words to express my regret at not having hit you up before now. I've been just mental busy. I know that's not an excuse, but now that I have my system up and running, I have been listening to the stuff that you sent me, and I did thank you privately for it, but now I want to publicly express my gratitude again. So you hit me up with a few items. Now, I had given you VCLT before, and indeed to your son Spence. Hey Spence, how's it going, mate? But you gave me this one, Salah Ragab and the Cairo Jazz Band on Archyard or Kindred Spirits, or one of those related to Sun Ra, which is just fantastic. I think I may have spoke about that one before. But you also gave me this one, which you did feature quite heavily in your Sun Ra videos. You've done a few of them. And for anyone that's unfamiliar with Sun Ra, I recommend them to check out. There's a few videos in the VC on that topic, but in particular, I think that the resident VC expert is definitely Aaron himself. Roger Coleman did a very good one as well, and there's one or two others as well. But definitely check out Aaron's video. And you did speak about this one, Continuation. For the longest time, I thought it was Continuum, with the WM, but it's not. This is very heavy on the percussion. Definitely worth checking out. So cheers for that one. And you also gave me perhaps the most interesting item that you gave me is this one, Milo Fine Free Jazz Ensemble. I really liked this one. You gave me 3 of his records, but this is the one that hit me most. It's called Against the Betrayers. It's a free improv session. Very, very impressed with it, with copious amounts of clattery bits and pieces of chinking going on all over the place between my speakers. Just wonderful stuff. I've got a great new system which I'll profile soon. It really got a detailed monster of a cartridge, and it's showing these recordings in their finery, and it's just superb. So this one is Meat with Two Potatoes, limited to 500 copies, and this one is a white label promo on white vinyl, and it's another live date. It's just called April October 1991. Very impressed with all of those, Aaron, and thanks again. And of course David McCarthy, who's a habitual giver of VCLT, who lives local to me. Dave gave me a lot of things over the past year that I haven't shown, and I'll catch up with that too, Dave. But this is the one that I've been listening to recently. It's Pat Metheny band, actually, I'd say. Yeah, Pat Metheny group. And I saw Metheny last October in Dublin, or last November in Dublin. It was his first time in Ireland, and he still has that shaggy dog hairstyle. He's as entertaining as ever. Just tremendous to get to see him live after all these years. Okay, so recent finds. Well, recent finds that I picked up, some hip hop stuff. High Tech, the producer High Tech. This is on Raucous. I had this years ago on cassette. These two I got for €10 each at a fair, at a local fair very recently. High Tech, of course, was in Reflection Eternal with Talib Kweli. I also picked up this one, which is loosely part of Guru's Jazzmatazz sequence of albums. I think he may have done. I definitely have volume 1 and 2 of Guru's Jazzmatazz, and I believe this may be volume 3. It's called Street Soul. So this is more to the kind of R&B side of things. Again, a double album with a host of luminaries, including Herbie Hancock, Craig David, Erykah Badu, Bilal, The Roots, Angie Stone, Macy Gray, etc. So you get what that's about. So very happy to get both of those. And when I was staying in Canterbury, I went into a local store there called Vinyl Store Junior, and I picked up this one. I was delighted to see it. It's an early edition, Liberty pressing of Lee Morgan's Sidewinder, which is just, I don't need to discuss this with anyone, but delighted to get this. Just absolutely tremendous. I have it on CD, but now I have it on vinyl. And I've also been burrowing very deeply in the prog rabbit hole, and it started off really with this album, Trespass, which I bought at a fair in Cork last January or February, and I really became enamoured with early Genesis sound, in particular the contributions of Anthony Phillips, which urged me to dig a bit deeper into Mr. Phillips's discography, whereupon I chanced on this one, which is his debut, The Geese and the Ghost, which I bought from his website, that he came with a signed insert on it, and just tremendous pastoral prog. I then went deeper into the Genesis oeuvre, and I picked up their... Sorry, that's actually the second Genesis album. The first one is called From Genesis to Revelation. This one is their third. It's called Nursery Crime. And this one they had a new guitarist. They had Steve Hackett. This one is not as good as Trespass, in my opinion, although it does feature two spectacular tracks, The Musical Box and The Return of the Giant Hogweed, which are worth the price of admission alone. So very enjoyable. And this one, I believe, is the best one of the Genesis records that I've heard. Well, it's maybe a bit better than Trespass, and this is Foxtrot, which I only got 2 days ago. Now, I have heard it quite extensively online, but I wasn't really that familiar with it before this year, and I have to say it's phenomenal. Watcher of the Skies, what an immense track there. The Mellotron opening, and then it just, the dynamics of the drum beats that come in, and it just reaches towering crescendos of sound. Side 2 in particular is strong. There's an opening beautiful acoustic piece by Steve Hackett. What's it called actually? Really beautiful track. Horizons. And also the second track, which is kind of a 23-minute epic called Supper's Ready, maybe the best track in prog history. I shit you not. Okay, so I also got this one recently. Now, I do have Quiet Storm and some of Phil Manzanera's other works like Diamond Head, but I was missing this piece, which is a great triumvirate. of albums to get: the 801 Live, the Quiet Storm, Mainstream, and his debut Diamond Head. This is 801 Live, which is a super group of sorts, made up of Brian Eno and Manzanera from Roxy Music and other members of other contemporaneous groups as well in the prog scene, and they do some great cover versions. Well, one brilliant cover version of Tomorrow Never Knows, and a really shite cover of The Kinks' You Really Got Me. But that blight aside, the rest of this album is tremendous. One of the best live albums I've ever heard. There's almost a punk closing track called Third Uncle, and it features cover versions of a lot of Eno's earlier works, from Taking Tiger, Mounted by Strategy, and indeed Diamond Head is also in this. Just a superb album, brilliant live album, 801 Live. That was only €2.95. I'm also looking to pick up an original Kraftwerk on Philips. Comes with some blemishes here, but the music is as pristine and as powerful as ever. So I'll leave it there. Keep it short and sweet. Hi to everyone, and Bobby, you still can fish, baby.